Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeanelle. Slade. Jay has the night off. Tonight, more details emerged surrounding an alleged teenage rapist here in Billings. Details about where the alleged crimes took place, multiple witness stories, the back of the victim stories, and what we know about the 17-year-old suspect. Now, court documents describe 5 alleged rapes of local teenage girls in detail. The suspect, 17-year-old Billings High School student Braden Pond, a former student and football player at Skyview, transferred to Billings Senior in May. However, he was not listed on Friday night's roster in the Bronx game against Glacier High School. Police say the sexual assaults happened from February of 2017 to May of 2017. Pond has yet to appear in front of a judge, so that means no bond has been set, and he has not been booked into jail. He's accused of those 5 different counts of felony sexual intercourse without consent against 5 girls ages 14 to 17. A charging document states several of the assaults took place in the cab of Pond's truck, including at the Skyview High School parking lot, the Billings Heights Walmart parking lot, an open field, and at a house party. One victim told police Pond placed his hand over her mouth and held her wrist back during the assault. He then told her, quote, "No one is going to know about this." Another victim told police she tried to get away from Pond by repeatedly striking him in the face with her cell phone until a friend intervened to help. Now, that friend, she told police when she realized what was happening, she started pounding on the truck window. We'd also like to let you know that the Yellowstone County Attorney's Office has named multiple witnesses in this case, and each charge carries up to 100 years in prison. Pond is scheduled to appear in district court on September 4th. A Carbon County man killed in a weekend crash near Laurel has been identified. 21-year-old Liam Morris died after crashing head-on with a semi-truck around 8:30 Sunday morning. Morris was driving northbound on U.S. Highway 212 near Laurel. Authorities say he lost control and crossed over the center line for unknown reasons. The semi, driven by a 54-year-old Billings man, veered off and ended up in the northbound ditch, while the Suburban rolled into the southbound ditch. Morris died on scene. Drugs are considered a factor in the crash. On the Billings City Council agenda tonight, approving a contract to remove the huge rocks that fell on Mountain View Boulevard back in June. Now, the rock slide damaged homes and left giant boulders in the road. The city engineering department tells us remaining unstable rock must first be removed before the city can begin fixing that roadway. Geostabilization International will complete that first phase. Now, the project, which has a price tag of more than $350,000, will be paid for through a combination of street maintenance funds and money from the city's general fund. After months of renegotiating NAFTA, President Trump has announced a preliminary agreement with Mexico. The president says the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement will be good for U.S. manufacturers and farmers. MTN's Russell Nimitz has more on how it could help Montana wheat and barley growers.
U.S. agricultural organizations have been watching this renegotiation process very carefully ever since the rewriting of NAFTA began about a year ago. Lola Raska is the executive vice president of the Montana Grain Growers Association and says export markets like Mexico are very important.
Nationally, Mexico has emerged as the largest customer for U.S. wheat. Traditionally, that's a lot of hard red winter wheat from the Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas area, of course, because of proximity and transportation costs. But they do buy some hard red spring from Montana. For Montana specifically, they have become the largest market for our malting barley exports. And so we were very concerned about losing some of those markets and becoming a reliable supplier to them.
And she says the new U.S. and Mexico trade agreement will help the U.S. maintain important market share that was being lost to other wheat and barley exporting countries.
They were already starting to buy initial purchases from Argentina and from Russia, and that may be continue in the future. We may have damaged some of that reliability that we enjoyed previously.
Now keep in mind that most agricultural organizations involved with major commodities and proteins simply wanted to maintain the zero tariffs that work to stimulate U.S. agricultural exports to Mexico. And that's because the USDA reports that Mexico was actually the #3 overall market for U.S. ag products last year, valued at $18.6 billion. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you, Jeanelle.
All right, thanks so much, Russell. Of course, the attention now turns to Canada, where negotiations have stalled, and that's because of ongoing differences, including President Trump's demand that Canada ease restriction on U.S. sales of dairy products across the border. Today, Governor Steve Bullock ordered Montana flags to fly at half-staff in honor of Senator John McCain. State and federal flags will remain lowered until Sunday afternoon, September 2nd, the day of McCain's internment. Bullock's proclamation states that McCain was a hero in war and in Congress. Senator McCain passed away on Saturday. Senator McCain did spend some time in Billings in the run-up to the 2012 election. He was here to campaign for Republican Senate candidate Denny Rehberg. Rehberg lost a close election to John Tester that year. McCain met with volunteers at the Republican Party's Get Out the Vote headquarters. He also made a campaign stop in Great Falls. Now, at that time, Democrats were in control of the Senate. As a presidential candidate in 2008, McCain carried Montana over Barack Obama. Still ahead on your Q2 530 News, we find out the total money raised at this year's Billings Clinic Classic, and we look back at the classics of the past in tonight's Q2 Rewind. And in sports tonight, it's finally game week for your Cats and Grizz. Scott checks in with both teams coming up.
Ed McIntosh in for Bob tonight. It was a chilly day. We only hit a high of 61 degrees. That ties the record for the coldest August 27th on record at the Billings Airport. Your forecast coming up in a few minutes.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 530 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.